This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today we have a special meeting. I love that our community takes turn and we're all, just prayerful and feel inspired to teach a lesson or, create a workshop for each other. Our community is we're full of love for each other and just there and supportive because we all have the same journey. So today, Debbie is our presenter, right? So we have several presenters, we just take turns. And this is a topic that is very meaningful for all of us, but this is what Debbie is super passionate about. So Debbie is from Arizona and we've been friends for over a decade. And our relationship, our sisterhood has just grown and grown and grown. I think, there was no drama or anything. It's just a natural, like, hey, love at first sight. And then it's like, hey, forever and ever and ever. So anyways, we want to share with you our love for God. And you can see how just so lovable Debbie is and her love for truth and, just personal development, especially on a spiritual level. So yeah, that's Debbie for you guys. I hope you enjoy this. It's going to be amazing. I'll take it away, Debbie.
Thank you, Jade. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be with you tonight and to share this topic with you. It's something that has been really powerful in my own life, and that's to create a personal declaration. And when I talk to people about this, sometimes they're not quite sure what that means or how to get started. And I'm hoping tonight that we will work together and inspire you and inspire each other about how to create the personal declaration and understand the purpose of it. All right, so most of us know about creating affirmations, and we begin with the statement, I am, and then we add to that. So first, let's just talk about this. Like, has anyone experienced this? Like sometimes you feel confused about who you are, about your health, about what you have power over, what you don't have power over, maybe about your health, like understanding what's happening to you or what you want to create. And then of course, you have other areas of your life like your wealth and your relationships. And then like, I know me, I've had lots of questions like, where am I going? Like, what is the purpose? What is my purpose of doing the things that I do? And where am I going? Have any of you experienced that?
All of us.
I think so. I think we're all more alike than we are different.
Yes.
All right. So what if you could have a compass to help guide you personally in your life? Would that be helpful?
Yes.
Yeah, I know I love the scriptures, and those are a huge comfort and strength and guide for me. But when I learned about a personal declaration, it just helped me apply what I learned in the scriptures in a more personal way. So maybe that will be something that's helpful to someone tonight. So you can have that compass. You can create your own personal declaration. And I love this. When I was creating this PowerPoint, I immediately thought of the Declaration of Independence. And it talks about the people, we the people. This is what we want. This is what we desire to create. This is who we are. And they talked about the outcomes that they wanted, didn't they?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so this is a really simple slide because I just inserted it about 5 minutes before we started. And I was pondering about my personal declaration and what was some of my inspiration. And I actually didn't get to finish the slide. But it made me think about like Eve from the scriptures. She was given the name of Mother of all living. And Adam, he was called earthy, or the first man, and he was given charge to name all the animals, right?
Yep.
And then, I mean, there's lots and lots of other people, but these are ones that just came off the top of my head. And I thought about Mary, the mother of Christ, and she declared herself to be the handmaid of the Lord, which I thought was really powerful. And then I know Joan of Arc, she had to have understood who she was, and her ability to receive divine direction and revelation to do the things that she did. I think of Martin Luther King, who was inspired as well, and he declared that he had a dream, right? And the things that these people talked about hadn't happened yet, but they chose to take action. They chose to do something. And there's a man named Nephi in a book called the Book of Mormon, and he declared who he was and his purpose. He said that he was highly favored of the Lord. And one of his purposes was to show unto people the tender mercies of the Lord. And then there's tons and tons of other people throughout time that have declared who they were and what they wanted and what they wanted to create. And probably one of the most profound experiences that I had when I was creating my personal declaration, excuse me for the feelings are very tender, is that when I was reading the scriptures and going through, I kept seeing Jesus Christ declare who he was and what his mission was. And for me, that let me know that I was a precious daughter of God too, and that I had a purpose for being here and a mission for being here. And so it just solidified this idea and purpose of creating a personal declaration for myself. Has anyone else created a declaration for themselves?
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, thanks, Shade. All right. Please stop me if anyone has any thoughts or comments or anything that they'd like to share. Otherwise, I'm gonna keep going here. So the idea behind this declaration is that we can be 100% responsible for our lives, and we can choose, we can use our gift of agency and use it wisely to be 100% accountable for our life experience. That means that we don't need to leave everything to chance, is that we can choose how to participate in life. We can decide who we are, who we want to be. We can tap into our divine sources and really, we can ask God to show us who we are. And we can, yeah, go ahead.
It's okay, Debbie.
Okay. And part of that process is like getting to know ourselves well and understanding like who we are, like what do I like, not just what I don't like, right? Because I think so many of us know what we don't like, and we forget that we can choose and understand what we do like, and have those things be prominent in our lives. And then, do we know what we believe and value? Do we know what type of characteristics we admire and want to develop in ourselves? And who do we want to be? And what do we want to do? And what do you want to create? And how will you use your time here to contribute? So there's lots of ideas over here on that right side of the screen. And like, we can understand that we're a child of God, and that God is who God is to us. And he's a loving, wise, wealthy, expansive being. And we're cut from the same cloth. How does that feel to like understand that your divine Father is loving, wise, wealthy, and expansive? And what does that mean for you?
Feels glorious, Deb. It feels really glorious.
Hi, Ashley. Thank you. It
We're
sure
the
does.
we're the luckiest people alive.
That's right.
All of us, right?
Yes. Yes.
The thing is I think that some of us kind of grew up and we took these things into our head, but we didn't really apply it to our heart. And so this going from the head to the heart is really an awakening, right? It's an awakening to the point where we realize how powerful we really are in creating our life and our reality, and participating and partnering with a loving God who tells us that our purpose here is to have joy. All right. Okay.
Debbie?
Yeah.
Okay, so I would say I didn't move it to my heart until about 2 years ago. I sang I am a child of God for every day of my life and every other church song that you ever did hear, but it was like it was lived in my brain. And then as soon as I feel like that, it is almost like it's kind of like if somebody like reading the recipe versus like actually like cooking. You know what I mean? I feel like, honestly, I felt like I knew all the answers. I could tell you them, but I didn't like taste it, if that makes any sense. Like I didn't feel it to my bones, to my heart. I didn't feel it. And that is like the difference is that was actually a toilet lid, so sorry about that. But yeah, like the difference is really everything.
Yeah, really, for sure. I remember Jade talking about, and here's the thing, just because I hope everyone gets this message. Many of us here go to church or whatever, and whoever doesn't, whatever. But the point is, I remember Jade talking about when she was growing up, and she grew up in a different faith or practice than she does now, but she felt as a child that she knew that she was important and valuable to a divine being. Like she felt like she had a father in heaven. And then I've had friends, people that I've done sessions with, tell me that the same thing, Ashley, like they knew on an intellectual level that they were a child of God, but really not understanding or believing it was kind of the next step. And that's what we hope for everyone to begin to understand about themselves. So I don't know who's out there who wants to answer this, but if you feel like you know who you are, how does knowing who you are and whose you are, how does that help you?
To me, it really opens up my belief in myself, in my potential. Because before, like, I would say that I had the same limits that my mama and my grandmama did. You know what I mean? Because they were the ones that taught me. You know what I mean? And so like, I feel like as soon as I was able to shake that off, like that, I was like, well, turns out I have like boundless, glorious potential. I am doing everything. And even like, as I've asked Heavenly Father to help me understand who I am, whenever I feel like, whenever he tells me things, I believe him. Whereas before, I would have been like, oh, well, that's arrogant, or that's not humble, and no way is that me. But when I feel those things, I'm like, I feel like I believe you. And because I am your daughter, I have the potential for those beautiful things. And to me, it's liberating and empowering.
I love that. Thank you so much. It makes me, Ashley, it makes me think about this scripture that says, then shall thy confidence wax strong in the presence of God. Like, you've felt that from him. You've felt a divine confirmation of who you are and the potential that you have. Thank you so much. Anyone else? How does knowing who and whose you are help you?
Nora,
I'm
sorry.
go ahead.
Nora just said thank you to Ashley, because it kind of clicked with her there. Yeah, and Kat, would you like to comment?
Well, I hadn't really thought about it before. I think I always believed there was something more out there, and I always believed differently than everybody else was around me. But now, with the knowledge that I should lead and think and go with my heart first, it opens up the possibilities of the things that I can do and the way I can feel about myself, because I have a hard time thinking that I'm worthy of things. And when I think this way, it actually makes me feel like I am worthy of things, that I do deserve more than what I have right now, and that I can do that because of him, because of my faith, and because I believe, and because if I follow my heart and do what my heart feels instead of my head tells me. My head's full, my heart's not.
That's beautiful, Kat.
I love it, Kat. Thank you so much. That's
And look,
precious.
I know Kat, and in such a short time, she has awakened to who she is. So that's just phenomenal to like remind somebody that they're allowed to be divine and amazing. Yeah, give themselves permission.
Yeah. I think one of the beautiful parts of this is that when I began to see myself like truly as a child of God, it helped me see other people that way too, and understand that that change is possible. And when I fail, I can fail forward, but also that I have this promise, like in 2 Timothy, he declares, for God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. It tells me like you're doing okay. It's okay. Like sometimes we mess up, but we can fix it. And with the Savior, we can keep moving forward. You know what I mean? Like all of us have stuff, right? But it also teaches me that I can be more intentional about how I want to live and who I want to be.
Yeah. And
so
it's difficult times, Debbie.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
For during the difficult times, we know that we can overcome it. Eventually, it gives us that hope, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. For sure. So step 1, you get to choose who you are. So who do you want to be? So I only have my personal declaration, so I don't mean to like focus on mine, but this is what I have. So I'm going to share just little parts and pieces of it. And the first line of mine says, I am a beloved, connected daughter of God, because it's really important to me to feel a connection with Heavenly Father and to know that He will hear me and that I can hear Him. And so these are things that I chose to write in my declaration. And I want to be a receptacle of His truth and His love and His light. And I want to be humble, but I also want to be fearless. And I want to be highly intuitive. So I declare that I am the things that I want. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what, about me, like my light shines so bright that it overcomes all darkness and doubt. So I get to choose that. And then what's my role? What do I want to be? An influential teacher, mentor, and messenger of healing. And then I trust in the things of the Spirit. Like these are the things that I want and that I want to do and become. So everyone gets to choose their own. I think that's the beauty of it, is that none of us are exactly the same. We might have similar purposes, but the flavor and the way that we do things are going to be a little bit different. And I love that. Okay. Anyone have any questions about step 1?
Nope.
Okay. We're going to keep going. Step 2, clarify what it means to be you. What does it mean to be you? What do you value? What do you believe? And what do you want to do? Okay. So, I think some of us, like understanding our own values, like that can come really quickly. And then for some of us, it'll be like, oh, what do I value? and it might seem overwhelming to really think about those things, but it doesn't have to be. And maybe you haven't asked that question before of yourself, or you haven't identified that for yourself, but sometimes you can look to your pains to understand the positive side of what you really want. Does that make sense? Like, I'll give an example, and I've given this before, but like in my life, I kind of grew up with a belief that I couldn't have really, really close friends. And it was just a matter of environment and circumstance. And I attached a meaning to what was happening in my life. And then I realized as I grew older, that is something that I really valued, is having soul sisters like you all, and being able to have deep conversations and have meaningful connections with people. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So by hearing that, does anyone here have, like, did someone recognize something that they value?
So I feel like that, like what you were just saying, I actually felt like I grew up feeling like girls compete. You mean like that they compete, and then I realized that that's not true. And then I feel like that as soon, like the same thing that you said, the thing that you want, you actually already are. And then I have this beautiful sisterhood now with, like, I was talking with my youngest daughter, and I was like, I actually don't even know how many best friends I have. Like, I don't even know. Like I can't count them all. You mean, like, I make them at a retreat and we may not talk for 6 months, but literally I would, I would go stay in their house. I would let them watch my children, which is an honor. You know what I mean? And I like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like you know them to the soul. And I feel like that is, like you said, like something that I value so much. And I don't even have any sisters. Like, I didn't even grow up with sisters. And so it's an amazing gift. Like you were saying, I think it's awesome.
Yeah. I think, as children, we're not so aware. Some of us haven't been so aware. And so we make assumptions, right? Instead of making choices about what we believe. And so now we live in this time of, I like to call it the Great Awakening, where each of us at some point in our life, some earlier, some later, are realizing that we can choose to create the reality that we want. Yeah. I love that. And we are seeing the things that we want manifest because we've chosen to stop assuming, and we've just chosen to believe and focus on what we value. Okay, so here's a big list of suggestions. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this slide. I'll post it. Actually, I already did post it on Facebook so that people can reference it. But this is a really big list, and I even started going through it, and I'm like, oh man, like there's so many things that I value. But the idea is to narrow it down to like 3, and those are the things you focus on. The things that you value most. I mean, you might want to whittle it to 10 first and then whittle it down to 3, but it's a good list, a fairly comprehensive list. And if it doesn't have something in here that you like, you can write your own in. But so figure out what you value, and then everything is really going to stem from that. Does that make sense? Like your statements, the kind of life you want to create, what you want to do, all of those are really going to stem from the things that you value most. Okay. Yeah. So the step 2, choose 3. And if you're choosing to say what you value, then you want your doing part to match that. You want it to be congruent. Okay. Because if we're saying one thing and we're not doing it, we're going to feel quite a bit of discontent. And then we wonder why we're not we're not feeling balanced, or we're not feeling at peace. I'll give an example on that. So a few years ago, I figured out that I was focusing a whole lot on what size clothes I was wearing and how much I weighed, right? And I said, well, I think I'll feel better about myself if I look like this, or am this size, or I weigh this weight, or whatever. Anyway, I was wrestling with myself a lot, because I would hike and work out and stuff sometimes. And then there were times where I would do it a lot. Does anyone do this? Like for 6 months, you're like, oh, I'm going to work out like 5 days a week or whatever. And then you do it for a time and then you don't.
Yep.
Anyway, so I just had a lot of incongruencies inside of me regarding how I looked and what I weighed and what size clothes I was wearing. And then I was hiking one day, and Heavenly Father's like, what do you really want? And I was like, what? I'm like, I really just want to be strong and capable. Like, I don't want people to have to take care of me when I'm older. I want to do that myself. I want to maintain my independence. And so that was it. That was like my answer. I just want to be strong and capable. And then I was like, okay, what does that look like? And I decided, like, that I could move and that I could do the things that I really love. And I really love hiking. So I'm like I'll be 52 this year. And I see people on the mountain that are much older than me. And I'm like, you guys are rock stars. I want to be just like you. But does that make sense to everyone? Yeah. So for me, I'm not like a crazy, like I need be a bodybuilder or anything like that. So I've just decided like my minimum is I want to get out and move my body really good and like get my heart rate up at least twice a week, if not more. But I kind of give myself a baseline, and then I do more than that. I'm like, yay, woo, good for me. And on the other days, maybe I'm not getting my heart rate up, but I'm determined to move my body every day, like stretching or moving or working, whatever I can qualify as moving my body, exerting my body, and making sure that I am strong and capable. Okay. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay.
So Deb,
Anyone else have any examples like that? Yeah.
yeah, just two examples popped into my mind. One is when we say, I love God, God comes first. Yeah. So for me, when I first became Christian, one of the things that I noticed was the covenants that I made was keep God's commandments, always remember him. And I'm like, oh, how do I do that? I better remember to do that. Right. And so I thought to myself, well, if I put him first, then he should come first in my day. So if I, because I'm moving the knowledge from my head to my heart, if I were to put God first, that means I pray to him and then read my scriptures first thing in the morning before I do anything else. Right. If I am going to sit there in my bed, I can do that reading. As soon as I get out of bed, I'm on the floor kneeling and praying. So I just, I taught myself that habit because I need to show me what I really value most. Right.
Yeah.
So the other day, my husband was struggling with this actually, because he's like, I'm going to finish my book, and here's this deadline. And then he doesn't meet that deadline. He's like, oh, it's like, I messed up. Okay, so I'm going to have another deadline. And then he realized, he's like, all right, if I'm going to take an inventory of what I value, it's this. So it's like, you guys check your days and weeks and stuff and see what activities do you focus on that takes the most time. So for him, he wants to make sure his kiddos are good and, make sure that I'm good and make sure the house is good. And then he, wants to exercise, and then he gets to his book, right? And so just by his action, he's like, okay, obviously it's not the highest priority, right? So he can see that why he's struggling, and then he just needs to sort through in his mind to show himself that, maybe you switch some things around a little bit just to, get him to see that there's more value in this activity for this period of time. Yeah.
I love that. I had a similar experience as you, Jade, with morning devotionals. I mean, I was pretty good for a long time, but there was a time when it really went from my head to my heart. And I was like, I need, again, like for me, I wanted to show myself that I put him first. And for a year, I had these like 10 things that I wanted to be included. I called them my daily battle plan in each day. And so I honored myself by keeping those agreements to myself about the things I wanted to include. And I did it for so long, it just became second nature. And then God was like, okay, these things are important. Some of my things are non-negotiable. And then other things are like, okay, maybe you don't have to do that every day, but you want to include it in every week. Does that make sense? And so we practice. It's like a pendulum that swings from one side to the other and back and forth until we come to center. That's what it reminds me of. Sometimes we focus a lot on the change that we want to make, because we want to be the change that we want to see. And then when it just becomes a part of us, like it becomes so natural, that we don't really have to think about it, that we have ownership over it. We have honored ourselves so much that we know what it's like to be without it and what it's like to be with it. And that morning devotion is one of those things that, I'm saying that I'm a beloved connected daughter of God. So what am I going to do to make that true? And that morning devotion is really important to me. So, okay. All right. Step 2, choose how I'm seen. How am I seen? Okay. I don't know that it matters what other people think very much, but it's about how we see ourselves. And then what are we going to do with that? How are we going to contribute? So we can choose to believe that we are instruments in God's hands. We can choose to believe that we're abundant and that we can serve freely. And then decide, like, what is my purpose for what I'm doing? And if it's someone's value might be beauty. Okay. Beauty is on that list. And maybe that person was born with a talent to dance or to sing or to write music, whatever it is. But it's going to have greater meaning when it benefits humanity. Do you think?
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah. So each of us, I believe every single one of us has a way that we are to contribute that fills us and it fills others. I wholeheartedly believe that. So it's a matter of us, like, getting to know ourselves well, like we talked about earlier, figuring out what we like, what we don't like, what is it that we do that sets our soul on fire, right? What do we do that contributes to the confidence and improvement and help of others? What are we going to do? I hope some of you have a notebook and are actually writing stuff down. I hope you're feeling inspired and writing things down, the things that come to your mind, because that is really important. Write them down and they become more a part of you. Okay.
The other part too, Debbie, is that we make a commitment and a decision to allow the universe to shift to help us get to what we want.
For sure.
If you want it, then write it down and it tells you that you want it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it makes it real, right? Instead of, they say a dream is just a wish unless it's written down, right? Or a goal is just a wish unless it's written down. So let's write it down and decide, what does it look like? Even this is one of my other favorite topics to talk about, is like time blocking and mapping out, where you're going to make time to have your actions congruent with your desires and what you want. So, and then what will you do with it? Is it something that empowers others? Like for me, I hope that what I teach will help empower other people to create true wellness and to discover their purpose and to inspire them to keep going and figuring out like what their potential is. All right. So step 3 is, what do you want to create? So this is about your dreams and desires and all of your life areas. So your health, your wealth, your relationships, and included in that health is our spiritual health too. So if you want to be spiritually in tune, then dedicate some time to your daily devotionals and being centered in the divine. If you want to have a strong and capable body, then hike or exercise or move your body, dance, whatever it is that you want to do, just do something that's congruent with that thing that you value. If you want to be a learner and gain knowledge, then engage in personal development or some other way that you feel inspired to gain knowledge. Believe that you can create an abundant income, and that it can come from abundance. Doesn't necessarily come from just money, does it?
No.
Does anyone have any ideas about where abundance can come from or what it can look like?
There's time freedom. There's
Oh, time freedom. Okay, yeah.
lots of resources at your disposal. That's abundance.
Lots of fun that you can get ideas from and just know that you have them and they're there for you and it's there.
Okay, Kat, will you speak up? It's a bit muffled there. Go ahead, try again.
Friends, knowing that you have an abundance of,
Abundance of friends. Yeah.
yeah, that you can pull, you know,
Yep.
feeling not quite so there, you know somebody that you can look to that just inspires you and brings you back up as a person.
Perfect. Yep.
Love it. Yeah, so if we can be, you know, focus on gratitude and affirm, like, don't put limitations on what your abundance looks like, and then visualize it and then anticipate being free to serve. Do you think that those actions will create the outcomes that you desire?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over time, it might take some practice, right? Because it's not like, oh, I did it once and it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We really have to get into the energy and the spirit of the thing that we are hoping to create. Yeah. And then with relationships, you know, we all want to be loved and feel loved, and we all want to feel respected. And we all really would like to have a sense of belonging, I think. And to have DMCs, deep, meaningful conversations, at least me. I do. These are mine. So maybe not everyone, but I imagine everyone who's here on this call really wants that, you know, to have meaningful friendships and to have good communication and be with people that are solution-minded and positive thinkers. And then what do we create? If we become that thing that we want, so we focus on ourselves becoming that first, then we will begin to experience more love. We'll begin to experience equal energy exchange because we have respect for ourselves and for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And we invite spiritually and emotionally mature relationships in our lives. And anyway, think about all those things that you would like to create and declare about your marriage, your family, your home, your work, and what kind of experiences you want to have in your life. And honestly, there really aren't any limits, are there? Except for the ones that we place on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Has anyone experienced that?
Debbie, and you all, I do that. But also over the years, you can just adjust, you can add to it. Once you meet it, you can say, oh, you know, I'm going to add this, and then the universe will give you clues. So, you know, just last week I was saying to a friend, I'm like, I am so grateful that our community is in 19 countries. And then today I checked and it's over 20 countries. And so I'm like, is this, you know, and I'm thinking, yay, let's grow bigger and let's, you know, travel more. But then, you know, when I first started, it was like, you know, I just have a few friends here and there and it'll be fun. But now, you know, the vision is growing as you grow. So don't feel like it's as, you know, restricted, stuck. This is what I declared and this is it, right?
No, I love that. Yeah, I was going to mention that. Like, this is really an evolution.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as we go, like, you have
The beginning.
permission. yeah, you have permission to edit and evolve as you go and as you feel inspired and as you get to know yourself better, as you refine understanding what you want to create in your life and how you want to experience life, then yeah, you're going to evolve and change in a little bit. And so you can tweak things. And isn't that cool? I just think that's so cool.
So good. And that means you can change your mind. Stuff that you thought
Yes.
you wanted, you might say, nah, I changed my mind, and then erase, delete, and then
Yeah.
never mind, I want this actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For
So
sure.
I think sometimes when I help people with this, they want to write it correctly. So they're like, I don't know. You know, tell me what to write. I'm like, no, this is your stuff, your dreams, your love. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, I don't know. And then I'm like, well, make up something and start there, and you know, adjust it as you go.
Yeah. And I think there's a really important part I think I want to touch on right now is that, and I think we talked about this a lot in a podcast that we created about believing in other people. But we can decide what we want to believe about people too. like I just want to believe, like, I think I collected for years and years and years. I collected a lot of evidence. Can we shut the door? Sorry, my dad's doing woodworking. Collected a lot of evidence of the things I didn't want to see in certain people. And then I realized, like, I'm creating that. Like, I'm seeing all the evidence of the things that I don't want. So I get to flip that. So I get to choose to see people as people that I love as healthy, and that they value the work that I do, and that they're my biggest cheerleaders, and that they are open and they want to communicate and they're solution minded. Like, and as soon as I start viewing people differently, guess what happens? Yeah, I start seeing more evidence of the things that I really, really want to see. And it's not like mind control or anything. It's just my perspective changes and my energy changes. And I think I invite more. Like Jade said, the universe begins to work in our favor because we believe now, and we know that everything's rigged in our favor. Right? Okay. And that includes all the lessons that we learn along the way. They're rigged for our favor. Okay. So
Debbie, that's the other podcast we did. Right?
What's that?
That's the other podcast that we did.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, we did a podcast about believing in others.
Yeah, and then the perfection in all things. So the podcast, that's what I mean, like both of them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Both of them.
No.
That's perfect. So creating your personal declaration, let's kind of recap. You're going to ask yourself who I am. Who am I? Who do I want to be? What do I want to do? What is my purpose, my cause, my mission? What do I want to create of my life, spiritual and temporal? So physical, spiritual, emotional, and address all the categories: your health, your wealth, your relationships, your personal development. What do you want to create? And then your dreams and desires. Don't limit yourself. Like, if there was something that you wanted as a kid and it's still very relevant to you, then why not write it down until it becomes true or it's not relevant anymore? Why not? Okay, what's stopping you? So we can't become what we want to be by remaining what we are, right? So let's choose what we want. And I'm just going to end with this. Anchor into God, and use your agency wisely to personally declare who you are, what you do, what you create, because your joy can be right now. And the more you love yourself and begin to discover and live the truth of who you are, the more aligned you will be with God's laws. Your will and your mission naturally align with divinity. And then your purpose will enrich and elevate the lives of others and will transform you to a state of true and lasting happiness inside and out. There's a quote that I love from a book called The Happiness Advantage, and the author is Sean Akron. He says, happiness is achieved by striving after our potential. I think I probably butchered it a little bit, but I think that's the truth. We feel most alive. We feel most energized when we are in our zone of genius, and we feel like we're contributing and we're using our best self to do those things. So I hope you all will make a goal to go home and write your personal declaration, and then just know that you can go back and edit and evaluate it like every few months to see if you're on that same path and if there's anything that you need to change or upgrade. Thanks, everyone. Any thoughts?
Thank you so much, Debbie. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was awesome, Deb.
It was unbelievably wonderful.
Yeah, I think it's so important, guys.
Thank you so much. That was so inspirational, Debbie. That was, you just got me on a point. I sort of there, but I didn't really pin it down how I should. And you just gave me the motivation that I have to do that. And I just felt it when you said it. You have this beautiful voice. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's such an anchor, because I think in those times when we are feeling confusion and self-doubt, it's something that we can go back to and kind of have like that compass that we were talking about. So, and some days when we're feeling like we're not so awesome, I always remember the first line of my declaration, and it always helps ground me and remind me who I am and where I'm going. So
Yes.
Buoys you up.
Yep, sure does.
So
Buoys you up.
important, you guys. Take time and do this. And for the people who are watching too, you as well. Just wanted to end with a couple of thoughts here. Kind of like engage your creativity, engage your imagination, isn't it? Of
Yes.
what you want to be. So sometimes we're afraid to engage because we're like, what if I'm wrong? But you can always check in with God and say, hey, I imagine myself being a mighty instrument in God's hand. Is that okay? And God will say yes or no. You know, so you can always check in if you're not sure. So don't be afraid to just imagine and just, engage that creativity. The other thing too is being a teacher for over a decade, in school, I watch the children, even my children now, they're teenagers in high school, and I tell them that most people haven't decided who they are. And if you don't decide who you are, the world will decide for you. They'll gather up whatever information from whatever perspective they have, and they'll make a choice. You're the smart one, you're the nerdies, you're the whatever. So if you don't want people to decide who you are, you need to decide for yourself. So I told my kids, who wants to be cool? Who wants to be kind? Who wants to be whatever? And then they're like, oh, me. And then I said, okay, decide and commit to that. And, when you make a decision, the world will adjust to it. So somehow, like, who made that cool kid cool? He decided, and everyone's like, okay, because they haven't made a decision. So you can be the cool kid or whatever. You can be the mighty instrument in God's hands. You can be the good mom. Okay, you get to decide. Whatever you hurt, like what Debbie said, wherever you're hurting, if you're like, whenever people say anything about me and my kids, I hurt. Well, maybe your thing is, I haven't decided on being a good mom. Or whenever your husband says something and you're like, okay, I hurt. Well, maybe you haven't decided that you're a good wife, right? Or a good friend. So make that decision, and you have the authority over you. Okay, don't need permission for other people to agree with you. If you say, hey, I'm the cool kid, and everyone's like, no, you're not, but you're like, but I checked with Heavenly Father and he said so there, right? You have to decide. So I'm a good mom, and like my kids some days are like, and I'm like, you know what, I said no to that, and I don't feel bad. I still feel like a good mom. And they're like, you're right, you're a good mom, because they haven't decided, So you give yourself permission, you guys. This stuff is so important. Review, rewatch this video, and then let's move forward, because when we, as like Debbie said, when we're struggling, this is the skill that we have to pick ourselves up again. We get to be our cheerleader. So if you repeat your affirmation and repeat your declaration, it will cheer you up. And just today, a few people I've talked to, I shared with them that I get down and depressed and hard on myself every now and then, right? Even once or twice a week sometimes. But, I just push through by repeating that I'm a mighty instrument in God's hands. Satan, go away. I don't want to believe your lies, and then you get better. You pep yourself up. It's not like perfect. So I hope you don't think that, everybody here, is perfect and they're all happy, and then there's no problems because we have a declaration now. It'll be our anchor. It'll be something that really would help us bounce back up. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so good.
Awesome.
Love it.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording now, and we'll post this on YouTube.